Did I say the summer of the 80s was over? I may have been premature on that. I mean, it is still technically summer, right? For the last TV trash, I finally went after the infamous Get Along Gang and its reputation at trying to force-feed one-sided morality at young audiences. And the very day I released it, I found myself disappointed, because I missed out on a big opportunity to directly compare it to another show that may have been the antithesis to the Get Along Gang. A show that actually premiered the same year on the same network even, Muppet Babies. I briefly touched on this show back in my Jim Henson tribute video years ago, but Muppet Babies was really a groundbreaking series, even if the Rangoon reviewers have something against it. It found a way to be innocent and charming while teaching some good morals about friendship and supporting one another, while still being entertaining because of the multiple different character personalities involved. Jim Henson knew how to mesh these personalities perfectly, and the Muppets animated infant versions worked as a cohesive unit just as well as their full-grown puppet originals. And it was one of the few cartoon shows out there that still tried to abide by the rules of what had to be in cartoons of the time, but in a way that actually worked. This was pointed out by a longtime viewer the day I posted the Get Along Gang review, once again showing how much smarter my fans are than me. But hey, I can at least try and make up for this. And given that September is the month of Muppet Wish Day, it's as good a time as any. But first off, I need to get this out of the way. No, I have not watched the new Muppet Babies series, and I don't really plan to. I don't want to be that guy and immediately dismiss any reboot, but I just don't see this show recapturing the magic that the original had. Mainly for the same reasons the original will never get a home video release. What with all the footage they use, they would never get away with today due to copyright bullcrap. With that out of the way, let's get into the episode of the original Muppet Babies that perhaps may be the ultimate contrast to the complainer is always wrong trope. The episode Fozzie's Last Laugh. The episode begins with the Muppet kids all getting ready for school because they are so innocent and naive that even going to school is something they will imagine doing. Ah, those younger times. Naturally, Piggy is the teacher because she has to be the boss of everything, while Fozzie, he of course has to be the class clown. And I will admit that he's a bit annoying here, relying more on practical jokes than just bad gags.
There's a time for jokes and a time for being serious. Hey, Skeeter, what's that?
Yay! A spider!
It's only my fake spider. Pretty funny joke, huh? The old whoopee cushion always gets a laugh.
To the point where Piggy eventually makes him the dunce of the class, and then gives him an F while giving pretty much everyone else an A. This actually drives Fozzie to tears, more on that in a bit, as Nanny comes in and sees it. Nanny makes Piggy apologize, but even still, Piggy won't call Fozzie's jokes good, so he tries to tell one to prove otherwise. And here's where I have one issue with the story, because it does seem like they dumbed down Fozzie's comedic ability here.
What's the difference between an orange?
Go ahead, Fozzie. Finish the joke.
It is finished. That's the joke.
Yeah, Fozzie's jokes have never been great, not even on this show, but he always knew basic joke structure. Still, when not even Nanny can really laugh, this is when Fozzie begins to doubt himself, even as Nanny tries to offer words of encouragement. And the rest of the episode's first half is about the other kids trying to tell Fozzie what actually is funny.
The secret to being funny is being weird. Funny is fun.
Huh?
Funny is trip.
This was clearly meant as a way to teach the young viewing audience the various forms of comedy, because as I said, this was a time where cartoons still had to force some type of lesson into the narrative. We weren't quite at Garfield and Friends or Animaniacs level of cartoons yet. But each time Fozzie tries their advice, he ends up falling flat. And this finally drives him to just declare he's giving up comedy, going so far as to throw away all of his joke toys and books in a scene that, for a show for little kids, is pretty gut-wrenching. I admit never liking to see people be really sad or lonely or distraught, even in any entertainment media, and this was one of the first moments where I was really uncomfortable seeing someone so absolutely miserable. In fact, he's so depressed that it drives Piggy to actually attempt a real apology this time, even though Fozzie claims it wasn't all her fault. This is where I will give Piggy a little credit as a character, because even though there are quite a few times where she can act like a diva and a brat in the show, there could be just as many times where she showed she does have a heart and never actually intends to be malicious. Well, unless someone goes after Kermit, but that's to be expected. So the second half of the episode is all about Fozzie trying to find other things to pursue in life, but one by one through each imagination sequence, Fozzie figures out he's not so great at anything else, usually because he inevitably goes back to making jokes each time. And this just drives him further and further into despair, making him believe he really can't do anything except tell jokes and not be good at that either, so really what good is he? Again, for a kid's show, it's pretty depressing. But it's through watching that depression right here at the end where we come to the most important part of the episode. The other Muppet kids finally began to understand that even if Fozzie telling bad jokes wasn't always fun for them, he was never malicious in doing so, and seeing him happy ultimately made it tolerable and best for everyone. Seeing him miserable does nothing for the rest of the group. And so they all approach Fozzie and tell him they want him to keep telling jokes, with of all people, Piggy having the best line here.
We love to hate your jokes.
Oh, boy! Did I tell you the one about the man with the light bulb in his nose? He was lightheaded! Waka, waka, waka! What do you call a zebra with no stripes?
A horse.
A horse! Pretty funny, huh? Oh, yeah? Well, I can do worse than that. How about this one? What do you call a yo-yo that goes down but won't come up? A yo! Wow! Yum! Tomato! Waka, waka, waka!
The more I think about this episode, the more I see it as having one of the best lessons out there for everyone. It was one the show did quite a bit with other characters as well, like the time Gonzo began to question if it was right to be so weird all the time and had to re-embrace who he was. Such a message does a far better job showing how different people can coexist than any of these no one can ever disagree claims that shows like Dungeons and Dragons or the Get Along Gang tried to tell. And it led to even better shows like Gummy Bears, Tiny Toon Adventures, and even Ninja Turtles, showing how different personalities got along and worked together. In our society, we're taught that the majority rules, that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one, and in a lot of cases that is true. But sometimes, making a small sacrifice as a group to make one individual happy, to help make that individual know he's wanted there despite his differences, is one of the most noble gestures people can make. That people should embrace their nuances and never stop doing what they love if it keeps making them happy. And besides, I'd still say Fozzie's jokes aren't half as bad as some of the attempts at comedy I've seen online, or on Family Guy for that matter.
I like it.
I love great jokes.
I've got my computer.
I play the piano.
Is everything all right in here?
Yes, Nanny.
Fozzie.